We would like to welcome on stage a fifth counselor. She's a very young woman. She's a very successful entrepreneur. You already saw her on the Muhammad Yunus session. I'm losing my microphone, which is time to stop probably. Her name is Jessica Jackley. And please, Jessica, welcome us on stage.
Thank you. I'm going to talk fast because I think many of you are hungry. What I want to say to you tonight is this. Every woman in this room is powerful, and every man in this room is powerful too. But we have to be careful because sometimes our powers can go unused. Whatever information you might encounter here, whatever great ideas have come across today, whatever innovative strategies, none of these things matter unless you are totally and utterly convinced that you have the ability and you have the power to make your own dreams a reality. None of this stuff matters unless you're totally convinced of that. You have to believe when push comes to shove and when it's hard and when it's confusing. And someone asked earlier today, they feel maybe weary, like they want to give up. You have to be convinced in those moments that it's worth continuing and that you are capable of achieving your dreams. And perhaps more importantly, I believe that you have to be utterly convinced that the person sitting next to you and that every person that you encounter is equally capable of achieving their dreams too. And if you don't believe these two things, then I don't think anything else matters. Very quickly, very, very quickly, I think my story is proof of this. I grew up here too. I'm a Pittsburgh girl as well. And yeah, I grew up 20 minutes from here. And I grew up in a loving family in a very loving, supportive community that valued service. However, one of the ways that I learned about service, I think did some damage to me. I learned about the poor at a very young age, and I learned about the poor through well-intentioned NGOs, church groups, etc., that talked about people living in poverty as people who had stories only of sadness and suffering and desperation and hopelessness. And as I heard these stories over and over again throughout my life, yes, they made me feel something. They made me feel, I guess, pity and shame about my own relative middle-class American wealth. And yes, they drove me to act. But over time, I think one of the things those stories did to me was slowly build up some doubt in me that these other people in the world, people who might not have access to financial resources, it made me doubt that they could do things as great as they are all capable of doing, as we are all capable of doing. But one day, I was sitting in a classroom a lot smaller than this, not as grand and exciting as this conference, and I was listening to a speaker, just like you're doing now, and as you're doing all day. And that speaker talked to me and told me some things that totally changed the course of my life. That speaker was actually Dr. Muhammad Yunus. It was the gentleman that I got to sit next to today on this stage. And to be honest with you, I was trying to look very calm and professional, but I wanted to jump up and down because I was sitting next to one of my heroes and somebody who changed the course of my life. So this was about 9 years ago. I heard him talk about his work with the Grameen Bank, and I heard him talk about the poor in a way that was new to me. He didn't talk about people who had stories only of sadness and suffering that made me feel bad and scared and overwhelmed and afraid to even try to help. But he talked about smart, strong, hardworking entrepreneurs, intelligent people who may not have had access to schooling or resources, education, but they were doing everything right. So I saw the poor for the first time as amazing individuals completely capable of doing things as great as I thought I might be capable of doing. And it changed everything. So even though I had no special skills, no relevant education, I studied philosophy and poetry in college, never business, nothing like that until later. Even though I wasn't prepared and maybe wasn't ready in the eyes of the world, I was so inspired by Dr. Yunus that a few weeks later I quit my job. It was my first job out of college, and I quit it, and I moved to East Africa for a while, and I met entrepreneurs in Kenya, and Uganda, and Tanzania. I wanted to see for myself who these people were. I wanted to see for myself and hear for myself their stories. And in fact, they were stories of amazing life change and of confidence and of dignity. And hearing those stories inspired me so much that I wanted to share those stories with friends and family. And I wanted to respond differently. I didn't just want to give my few dollars or throw change in a jar and go on with my day and feel better about myself because I had done something good. I wanted to really know them and stay engaged. And I thought a good way to do that would be by lending them money instead of just giving. So this little idea to stay in touch with my new friends in Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania and soon all over the world, and to lend them a little bit of money, $25 at a time, that tiny, tiny idea led to the creation of Kiva. And that was 7 years ago. Kiva is a peer-to-peer microlending website where you can go online and lend to anybody, lend $25 or more to anybody in need who's posted on that site. Goat herders, farmers, seamstresses, all sorts of amazing entrepreneurs, and get paid back. And over just 7 years, it's not that long, Kiva has facilitated over $360 million in loans. It has grown very, very fast. And I have to pinch myself every day because it's grown, yay lenders, that's not my money. Yay lenders. So this little idea grew. And it started because I was able to see and to hear and to really believe in a different story of the poor, a story of potential and capability, a story of greatness. And I was told a lot of these things before that moment in time when I heard Dr. Yunus speak, and then when I decided that I was going to really try to do my dream in the world and Kiva began. I was told a lot of the same things that maybe you're hearing now and you've heard before. And the thing that was different, if I really look back to that time, the thing that became different for me was that I decided that it was time to really start trying. I decided to give myself permission to be a superhero. Superheroes are just regular people that decided to put on a cape, right? Decide to be great, to put on their greatness, because they know the world needs them, and they're not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to just get out there and try. So that's when I decided to really start trying. I decided I wouldn't let my own story be anything less than the very best version of my story. And I decided that to make sure through Kiva and the other work that I'm trying to do in the world, that I wanted to help everyone else have access to the resources that they needed and to tell their own story of greatness so that they could reach their potential too. So, to close, I believe everybody here has superhero potential, every single one of you. So whatever you do, as you go throughout this conference and before you leave tonight, promise me that you will decide right now, not 5 minutes, but right now, decide that you will not doubt yourself, that you won't doubt the person sitting next to you. And if you decide this, if you decide to believe that you are capable of making world-changing positive impacts in the way that only you uniquely can do, and if you remind the person next to you that they can do that too, I promise you, that person by person, interaction by interaction, as you go through your days, we will make this world a drastically different and much better place together. Thank you. Thank you.
That was an amazing and inspirational session, so a huge round of applause and thank you to Jackley and Emmanuel and all the councillors. Thank you. Yeah, sure. So, what a day, huh? Most amazing stuff. I mean, we pack it all in because we only do this once a year, so we make you work extraordinarily hard and do huge amounts of things.